Let's start with a tour of the home screen of your work phone. This phone is set up with everything you need for the job, and we do that on purpose so you don't have to mix personal calls and personal data with work operations. In the top left area, you'll see common Google apps that will be linked with your new work email address. Inside that folder, the Contacts app is especially important because it includes phone numbers for drivers and key contacts you may need during your shift. In the top right area, you may see payment apps such as PayPal, Square, or Cash App. Those are optional and only used if you choose to accept payment through your personal accounts. Your work email is also set up on this phone, and it's used only for work-related messages, so you're not digging through a personal inbox to find work-related information. You'll also see a translation app in case you need it, FlightAware for flight tracking, and Google Maps for GPS navigation. Square is also on your home screen because it's the payment app you will use the most for card transactions. And finally, the most important app for your day-to-day workflow is Taxi Caller. Now open the Taxi Caller driver app and sign in using the credentials you were provided. If this is your first time signing in on a device, you may also need to enter the company ID before your username and password. Before we jump into live trips, let's take a quick tour of what's on the Taxi Caller home screen and why it matters. One of the most important tabs is Job View, and we'll come back to that in detail. For now, let's look at Zones. The Zones tab shows what vehicles are signed in and where they're positioned, such as the mobile regional airport, the cruise terminal, and other hotspots. This can help you make decisions about where to stage. For example, if you check the airport zone and only one vehicle is there, you might decide it's a good time to head that way. If there are 10 vehicles in that zone, you might choose a different strategy. Inside zones, you'll also see something we call the zone queue, or zone queue. The zone queue is the order the system uses to offer or send new jobs. The vehicle at the top of that queue is the first one offered a new job. If that driver accepts the trip, they move to the bottom of the queue. If they decline, they also move to the bottom. There are a few exceptions, but most of the time the system works this way to keep assignments fair and organized. If you ever want to know whether you're close to the top of the zone queue, you can quickly check here, but keep in mind it changes fast. One job can reshape the entire list. Next, you'll see Shift History. Shift History gives you details about your past shifts, how many jobs you accepted or declined, how far you drove, the time you logged in, and the time you logged out. You also have the option to email yourself a report of your shift, which can be useful from time to time if you ever need to review your activity. The Permits section is where we keep your compliance documentation organized, especially expiration dates. If a permit is expiring soon, you will use the Update option to upload a clear photo of the renewed permit and enter the correct expiration date. Be very careful to enter the correct date because the system uses that date for reminders and compliance tracking. Once you upload the permit, someone in the office will approve it when they review the photo. The system will send reminders as expiration approaches, including emails and steps on how to renew. If you do not renew required permits in time, the system can block you from operating. So the expectation is simple. Communicate early, follow the renewal steps, and you'll be completely fine. You may also see a transactions area, which will populate as you complete work. You'll see a statistics button as well. Taxi Caller's basic statistics can provide a rough estimate of earnings over a time range and may also show how much work you have declined. That declined number matters because it's a quick reality check. If you are declining a lot of jobs, it's naturally going to affect your income. In the settings area, you generally don't need to change anything unless directed by management. At the bottom of the app, you may notice a set of custom buttons. These are tools we added to make operations easier. One of them is Info Hub, which is an AI-driven service trained on our operations and policies. If you have a question and it's not urgent, Info Hub is often the fastest way to get a detailed answer without calling the office. Another button is Forms. These forms are important because they connect real-world events, like voucher trips or maintenance, back into our system. One form you may use is the Create a Trip form. If someone contacts you directly and wants to book a trip, you can submit that form. If you want the trip assigned to yourself, you'll have that option, and you should include as many notes and details as possible. The reason is simple. If you end up unable to cover it, another driver needs the full context without tracking you down to repeat your conversation with the customer. You'll also see a voucher log. Some accounts, such as mobile infirmary, use paper vouchers. If a passenger hands you a voucher, you must complete the voucher log form to redeem it and receive payment. Voucher trips are not handled the same way as standard account trips inside TaxiCaller, and if you do not submit the voucher properly, your payment can be delayed. Next is the maintenance log. This is required because we track vehicle upkeep using mileage and maintenance intervals. When you complete maintenance, oil changes, filters, tire rotations, batteries, and other routine items, you'll log it here. The form is simple, but it's important that you do not make typos. Accurate mileage and accurate details keep both the vehicle and the schedule in good shape. The time off form is used anytime you have an appointment or obligation that could interrupt your shift. Doctor appointments, errands, and anything else that makes you temporarily unavailable. Submitting this form creates a blocked-out window in TaxiCaller, so dispatch doesn't accidentally assign you a trip. The goal is zero guesswork and zero double booking. Whenever possible, you should submit time off in advance, not at the last second. If something is truly urgent or time-sensitive, the expectation is that you call leadership directly rather than relying on chat messages. When you fill out the time off form, the first part asks when you need time off. You'll enter the date and the time, and then you'll enter the number of hours you need. Think backwards and give yourself a buffer. For example, if you have a doctor appointment on January 22nd at noon, you likely need time off starting before noon so you can get ready and travel. In that case, you might set time off starting at 11 a.m. and enter enough hours to cover travel, the appointment, and getting back into service. Then you enter your name, and if you want to add details, you can, but if it's personal, it's completely acceptable to simply write personal. You may also see a PTI trip log form. PTI trips require very specific information to be paid, and the rule is straightforward. You will not be paid for a PTI trip until you have completed the PTI trip log form with the required details. After forms, you may see what's new, which is not critical, and an app video, which is a quick tutorial that may not go into as much depth as we need. The more useful tool for day-to-day operations is the Resources tab. The Resources tab is a driver site built to reduce the need to call the office for routine questions. It may include a few recent updates, and it does not update constantly, but it's worth checking periodically. Inside the Resources menu, you'll find tools such as a directory with names, phone numbers, and email addresses. You may already have this information in your phone contacts, but the directory is a backup. There is also an airline crew tool that tracks airline crew pickups. In general, arrivals are pickups from the airport, and departures are pickups at the hotel. Sometimes it takes a moment to load. Once it loads, you'll see pickup times and flight details. If you tap the flight number, it may open a search result that shows current flight status. The important point is that you are still responsible for monitoring flight changes and being in the correct place at the correct time. If a flight delay would cause a conflict in your schedule, you need to communicate early so the trip can be covered correctly. You may also see driver statistics, which compares performance across your driver group. For example, it can show average shift length and total shift time for the current month. This matters because the TaxiCaller system is an ecosystem. Each time you sign out and sign back in, you often place yourself at the bottom of the job queue, and that can reduce your earnings over time. In most cases, drivers who stay on shift consistently earn more simply because they remain visible and available. Driver statistics may also show who declines the most money. That's another reality check. If you're declining a lot of work, it will naturally show up in your earnings. You may also see a top 3 tab that shows anonymously what the top performing drivers are earning over the past 7 days. This is anonymous on purpose. We keep earnings discreet, and management does not disclose individual earnings to others. The purpose of top 3 is to show what is possible when you work the system correctly and stay consistent. You may also see today's trips, which can help with context, such as identifying who covered the first leg of a 2-leg trip. You may see a weather tab just as a convenience. You may see safety scores, which show driver safety scoring. These scores can matter because safe, consistent drivers support a reliable service. You may also see a safety leaderboard, cruise schedule, and convention calendar, all designed to help you understand demand patterns and plan your day.